So welcome everybody to Webinar Wednesday from Sight and Sound Technology for the 2nd of June. My name is Stuart Lawler and my colleague Sharon Lyons is with us today.
Hi.
Sharon, you're very welcome to Webinar
Thank
Wednesday.
you, Stuart.
We don't have Carl Brealey today. Carl's on a well-deserved break, but Sharon is going to be presenting today on the new, very new, in fact, not even released yet, as we called it on the webinar, the outstanding Onyx Pro, and you'll learn all about what it is in just a moment. We would love to hear your comments and feedback and questions during the session, and there will be lots of time for questions at the end of Sharon's presentation. You can do that if you wish by raising your hand on Zoom. If you're on a computer, you can press Alt and Y, or if you're using a mobile app, you can activate the raise hand button. Or you can type a message in the chat window by pressing Alt and H if you're on Windows, or activating the chat button. And I will do my absolute best, not as good as Carl, I think, to keep an eye on the raised hands and chat. Now, before we hand over to Sharon, a couple of events to flag for you. Next Wednesday at lunchtime at 12:30, we're having an event on Clubhouse where we're going to be meeting our head of operations, James Everson. And if you've ever wondered how James selects products to go into our portfolio, this is definitely going to be an event that you want to come to. So it's on Clubhouse next week. There's a lot of stuff going up on our social media about the event, but if you need the link, please feel free to send an email to sales@sightandsound.co.uk and just say you're interested in the Clubhouse session next Wednesday, and come and have lunch with James Everson. I think it's going to be a really interesting talk. And this day, 2 weeks on Webinar Wednesday, Vispero are back, and we'll be hearing all about changes in the most recent version of JAWS. There was an update released for JAWS 2021 about 2 weeks ago, and there's some significant enhancements in particular to the way you read email and to JAWS voice control. That's all to come on the next Webinar Wednesday, which is on the 16th of June. So I'm delighted to hand over to Sharon Lyons, who's our low vision specialist and trainer for sight and sound technology here in Ireland. Sharon has many years of experience working with people who are blind and low vision, and has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to technology, and in particular keyboard shortcuts, known from her very popular Sharon's Shortcut brand. So Sharon, we're delighted to have you at Webinar Wednesday. We're even more delighted that you're showing us the Onyx Pro, because we're very excited about this device. I think everybody who sees this today is going to be equally as excited. So delighted to hand over to you, and let's hear all about it.
Grand, thank you, Stuart, and hello everybody. It's been a while since I presented on this. I'm usually in the background looking at the chat and stuff. I was just gonna, is it okay if I spotlight for everyone, Stuart? It's just because I'll be using the camera.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Ooh, that's me. Okay. Yes, so Stuart says we have a new product, and it's really new. You know that the paint is still drying, and no, it's not really. But it's not even, is it released in the States yet, Stuart?
It's not released just yet. It's releasing in the States, I think, in the next week or so, and we're going to have it here pretty much straight after. But yeah,
and this is the great thing about working for Sight and Sound, is we get things hot off the press to show everybody. And so we actually have a prototype. So this isn't the finished product. So I'll point out maybe what the changes are to it, but bear with me because it is very, very new, and they're still tweaking it slightly. But I'm going to just move my camera around and excuse my home office here. And if I just move around like that, so hopefully you will be able to see the machine there, and just move back a bit. So I'm just adjusting so you can see it, and you can't see me so well, but that's fine. So this is the Onyx Pro. It's the first thing you'll notice about it is it's very, very neat. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it apart. It has a camera that folds up nice and flat, and it is actually a Microsoft Surface tablet in a custom-made kind of ergonomic stand, and I'll tell you what I mean by that in a moment. So this is basically what it does is it's a tablet-based near and distance magnifier on a Windows surface, which means it's pretty much a laptop plus everything you need for magnification. So I'll just fold it down just to show you what it looks like folded up. So it's like a kind of the size of a standard laptop really in its case. It's on a 12-inch surface, but the case kind of makes it slightly bigger. It's magnetic, so we pull down the lid a bit like we would with a laptop, and it comes with a standard type cover, as it's called, which is the Surface keyboard that actually acts as a cover for the surface, as well. So if I show you there, it's switched on, you might notice, hang on, there's a light that's causing a bit of reflection there. You may notice that we have a full Windows machine here. Now, obviously you won't be able to see it that well. I don't have magnification software on it, but in effect, with the keyboard, this is a laptop. So we've got a full Windows 10 machine on a tablet. We can actually take the keyboard off because it's magnetic, and we can take the tablet out quite easily, actually. And it has a built-in stand. So this is a 12-inch Microsoft Surface Pro 7. So quite a high spec Surface, but the thing to remember with this is whatever you can do on a laptop or a PC, you can do on the Surface. So I can just slide that back into the stand quite easily, and I can attach, God, I love magnetic stuff. She says, yeah, it's quite easy to fit the keyboard back on. So I could do things here like I could go into a word processor. Hello. I don't think it's a touch screen. So, okay, that's quite glary because it's a white background. I can type because it's a touch screen. I can zoom into my typing so I can make it much bigger, or I could always increase the font. And I can carry on typing here. This is weird, me typing without, not touch typing. So this is the Onyx Pro. Okay, so I can come out of that, Alt F4, not going to save it. Oh, there we are. And we're back to the desktop. You'll notice actually with the type cover, it has a touchpad here. You'll notice that my mouse is nice and big, and that the icons on the desktop are quite big. And that's because I've adjusted the settings on the Windows accessibility built-in settings. So I've made everything easier, a bit easier to see. There. Okay. So I think laptop. But the main software on here is what's called the Onyx Pro software, which is a kind of a latest version of very similar to the Read Desk software, the latest version of the Read Desk software that you would find on a Mercury 12. And to use the Onyx Pro, we're going to put the camera on. So I'm going to open the camera up and just slot it into the top of the stand. Oh, one thing I meant to say as well, why I said this was an ergonomic stand, it's because the keyboard is at a slight angle. So if you can see that, the keyboard is slanted up slightly, which means it's a very nice typing position. And the keyboard, it's a Microsoft Surface keyboard. It's very thin, very robust. It comes in different colors, and it just connects to the surface at the bottom magnetically. You just hold it in the right position and it clicks up. And then you can use the keyboard. I know now, Stuart, you have a Windows Surface, don't you? So I'm putting Stuart on the spot now.
Yeah, sorry, I have a Microsoft Surface tablet.
Yeah, so and you use the type cover, is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's really, really nice to type on. It's I suppose it does need a firm surface, but once you have it on a desk or table or something, it's really, and you can type really fast on it as well.
Yeah, I find it very nice. When I first saw it there, I wasn't sure, and then I started typing on it, and it's like, oh, this is so nice. And then such a nice kind of angle as well for typing. Okay, but the main thing of the Onyx Pro, because that's just a Windows Surface, so the main thing is the software, the Onyx Pro software here. So I can, because it's a touch screen, I can double tap on it to start it up, and it's going to get upset because I haven't connected the camera. The camera is connected by, I was getting so excited about the keyboard. So I just plug that in. Oops, there we go. Okay. So the camera sits above the keyboard, if you like. Now at this point, we can take the keyboard off and use this area now for magnification. So let me just get it back to normal settings. So I could basically put a book underneath. I'm moving on from last Wednesday webinar. I have a book about pocket meditations here. So I can place my book underneath and I can zoom in on the writing and read. Oh, there's one I liked here. Here we go. Quiet mind, open heart. Here we go. So we can zoom in on our writing, zoom in and out. But the thing is, we can zoom in and then we could move around as well. So we can move around where we zoomed in rather than moving the book. Now, I'll just say it is moving around. You might notice it's kind of, actually, that's a really good picture. That's better than the other device. Anyway, the camera is moving slightly. That's partly because it's a prototype and it will be a bit more secure than that. Also, you might notice there's kind of wires coming out here. That's all going to be inbuilt, so you're not going to have wires getting in the way there. So that's going to be in the stand. Okay, now this might not be a great color for you, so we can look at our toolbars. So we have a toolbar that's on the left and right of the screen here. You can have it along the top that you may have seen with other products, or you can actually put it along the bottom. I kind of like it at the sides. It's black and white icons, which may be quite slightly easier to see than colors. And we have a little paint palette here. If I'm sitting in front of it, this would be a bit easier, but I can change my colors around. I can cycle around to the different color schemes. Where's my favorite one? I quite like the green on the black. Okay. And I can also just set this up, and I can take a picture, and then I could look at the picture if I wanted to. Hang on, there's one thing I haven't shown you. It does have a light built into the stand as well. So this is actually on the stand itself. If I just move it out for a minute, you'll see, ooh, that's very bright. It's a, ooh, get that back in. It's an LED light. And if I come out of this and I put the light on now, I might actually get a better picture, and I do, yes. So these kind of cameras are quite susceptible to light conditions, especially on the different high contrast modes. So yeah, so now I can take a picture. And even though it might be a little bit shaky, it actually takes a very good picture. So this is just going to be better on the final release of the product. And I can move around my picture. I can also have some options at the side here where I can save the picture. Maybe I'll just do that. It's a floppy disk, which means save, even though no one uses floppy disks anymore. And I can also get it to read my picture. Okay, so it struggled with the meditation, which is actually quite a funny font at the top of the page. But now I've got all my text in a column, so I can change the colors if I want to. I can change the highlight color, which is highlighting the word for me. And I can scroll up and down as well and zoom in. So I can make it bigger and just scroll, or I can move forward. Okay. So I do have this headset on, so I'm not sure how well you heard the voice there.
Yeah, the voice is a little bit low, but I
little bit low, yeah.
hearing in the background, but it's
I just
low. That's better. That's better.
There you go. Yeah. And off she goes. Thanks, Stuart. Okay. So that I've taken a picture. I've had a read. There's another save. There's another floppy disk here. Let's just press that for the sake of it, and I'll come out. You'll see the significance of that in a moment. I'll come out of my picture. Now, let's see if I've got something a bit bigger, which is an A4 sheet of paper. Okay, yeah, I can read this back and forth. Oh, that's a bit small for me, so I'll zoom in. And I can have a look at that and read back and forth. And then as I go down the page, I can actually slide it out the back. We do have a little gap here, just below the surface in the stand. But if this was a bigger book and it had a lot of information on the page, it might be quite hard to move back and forth. So we can take a picture of the whole page. And it's so easy to do. We don't have to zoom out or do anything. Sorry, I'm just tripping on my headset here. We don't have to zoom out or position the page or move the stand. We can just press this button on the toolbar, put the page in underneath the camera. It kind of shows us the positioning of the page, and then we can take a picture. And again, we can save it and we can get it to read it back to us. So now we've got a whole page.
I just bring it a little closer to the mic, Sharon, if you can.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Sight and Sound Technology Ireland have put together a package for the Onyx Pro tablet magnifier with speech to meet the needs of a student with low vision.
Okay,
Brilliant.
so that's a bit of information. You can hear that well, yes, Stuart?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have, again, we can change our colors. We can change our highlight. Whoa, that's better. We can zoom in and out, and we can scroll right the way through a whole page. And we'll just save. If I hadn't already, save everything. You don't have to, but I'll show you why I'm doing that. So I'll come out of my whole page, taking the picture of the whole page. And here we are back with our live view with my color scheme. And I can scroll around. Okay. Whoop. So, I just wanted to show you also, if you were looking at a picture, I think I have a Sight and Sound logo on here somewhere. Here it is. That's not the Sight and Sound logo. The Sight and Sound logo is not green and black. So I can do 3-finger tap and go back to color and see the logo in color. I can do another 3-finger tap to go back to my color scheme for continuing to read. Here's a bit of specs of the Onyx Pro. So it's a Surface Pro 7 with i5 at least, 8 gig RAM, 128 gig SSD. And we also, because they're talking about the education pack that we're going to call this, and we put a few other things in as well. So we put in extra memory and a USB hub. I think I caught a question about on the chat there about whether you could connect another keyboard in. Of course,
Yeah, there's
yes.
a few things coming up on chat. I think one of the questions on chat was, how does the keyboard connect? And I presume that's in relation to the type cover connecting to the surface.
It is. Yeah, it's a specific. So that was that magnetic connection. Yeah. Good question, thank you. And yeah, and if you wanted to connect, you have one USB port, which is currently taken up by the camera on a Surface. There's one USB port. So to get around that slight limitation, we put in a 4-port hub. So then you could connect in your other keyboard if you had a preferred keyboard you wanted to use, or if you want to use a separate mouse, and that kind of thing. Okay.
I'm just going to go through, Sharon, a few of the chat questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
This is really, really interesting so far, by the way, so thank you very much.
No problem.
Just a question from Kual, and I think Kual, I suppose that her query was, is this a product for someone with low vision? And the answer is yes, it's not something you would use with a screen reader. No. It's certainly not something a totally blind person would use. We have a question from Pauline, who asks, can you save a recording of the voice reading? So I suppose, can you see the actual voice?
That's a good question. No, I'll show you where everything's saved, that I kept tapping the saves. It doesn't actually save a recording, but it saves a picture of the page, and you can save the text off the page. So if you have the text off the page, then potentially you could get something, well, you could get anything to read that. You could, it saves it like a text file. So you could copy and paste the text into Word, even get Word to read it back. I think Word has a read aloud function.
You could, and of course, if somebody had Zoom text on this device, you could use the recorder in Zoom text to pull the file. So yeah, that's good. Cara asks, is this only compatible with a Surface? With Microsoft Surface? I think it is.
Yes, it is, because it includes the Surface. So the idea is that it's the software that I'm showing you doesn't work without the kind of camera setup. So the stand is in a particular orientation with the camera part that clips onto it. So if you try to use the software on another piece of equipment, you wouldn't have the same setup, if you know what I mean. So yeah, thanks for that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a question from Nanette who says, I'm hesitant to ask the price. Well, don't be hesitant. So the price.
We just got it, didn't we?
So we have two prices, obviously, because we're dealing in two different currencies. So in euro, the price is 3,999. And I just did a quick conversion with my friend Alexa here, and that does roughly about 3,440 pounds. But please, if you're interested in this in the UK, make contact with the sales team in Northampton or talk to your local Sight and Sound sales representative, because I think UK pricing is not quite confirmed, but it gives you a rough idea. And just a question from Svetlana, not so much relating to this device, but she's asking, will the interview with James be recorded for those who are not on Clubhouse?
Yeah.
And it's a great question, Svetlana. And I'm thinking it will. I just have to technically work out how we're going to do that. So you can take it that yes, it will. And if it doesn't, I can get the blame for it. Okay. Very good question.
Okay. So I haven't shown you the distance camera yet. I just realized I'm getting so into my my saving pictures and stuff on the near camera. So it's the same camera, but you just tilt it up and it switches to the distance camera. Now, I don't have a whiteboard, which is what this is kind of designed for. I have a filing cabinet with fridge magnets on it. So I can just make sure I'm zoomed out. So I can zoom out, I can put my toolbar on and zoom out. And then I can pinch to zoom in. So I could have the whole whiteboard there. Let's just put it on color. Might be able to see that a bit easier. And if anyone else has been on a demo with me this year, you're probably sick of my fridge magnets. But this is my favorite one that says, I have not lost my mind. It's backed up on disk somewhere, from one of my students. And of course, all the same things here. I can take a picture. I can save it. I can, now when it takes a picture, it actually takes a picture of the whole whiteboard, which is handy enough. And then you can zoom into different parts of it, or the whole filing cabinet, I should say. I won't get it to read because it's not going to be able to read the fancy type there. I've tried it before. And just put it back to color. Come on. Nope. Just give it a sec. And put it back to color. So you will notice as well, it's quite clear there, there's a red line at the bottom and to the right of the screen, so that when you're zooming in and out, pinch to zoom, it actually gives you an idea of how much scroll you have on this whole picture. So we can move up and down and left and right to see different parts of the whiteboard, if you like. Okay, I'm just gonna, we took a picture, didn't we? Yeah, okay. So, and then we can just switch the camera back down and we're back. It automatically changes to my preferred color scheme and whatever magnification I had before, but I can always change that if I want to with a simple click to zoom and move around, pinch to zoom, I mean, and off I go. Now it also has the ability to do video recordings. There's a little video camera there, maybe for doing some kind of maths calculation in a classroom. Obviously make sure you get the permission of the person that you're videoing, or if you wanted to do some project on videoing for a school project. It has brightness and contrast settings. You remember I say that these kinds of equipment can be quite sensitive to levels of light, which can be quite variable in different study settings. So this might be very useful, the brightness and contrast adjustments there. And then we have a little folder at the bottom here that will give access to the things that we've saved. And we have today's date in the American format, but June 2nd, 2020. And here's some pictures that I did earlier. There's my picture of the filing cabinet. I can bin them here. I can spin them round if maybe it was something that I took slightly differently. I can rotate it and I can get it to read out here as well. So I can find a picture that I took earlier and ask it to read it back to me. And then I have all the same settings for changing the colors there. And zooming in and out, we had a look at that before. There's also a columns recognition to turn on and off, but yeah, you probably have that switched on most of the time. So I can come out of there. And then finally over here we have our settings where we can do things like change the speech, so change the, you have kind of four, usually have four, well you will have four settings on here, I only have two, and different languages. You have 4 different voices. The speech speed, if you thought that was a bit fast, we can make it lower, slow, medium or fast. That was medium. We have color modes. Now you remember when I was tapping on the little color palette to get the different color modes, I can actually pick which ones I want to be available. So if there's a few that I use regularly, I can switch between them without having to go through all of the color modes. So we've got kind of white on black, black on white, yellow on black, black on yellow, green, green and black, red and black, blue and yellow, and grayscale. So you could untick the ones that you don't use, and then the paint palette would only cycle through your favorite color contrast modes. Okay. I think that's everything.
Can we stop for some more questions?
Sure, we can, yeah.
I think there's kind of an interesting question here from Anna. She has 2 questions. So she asks, how easy is it to use for someone who needs to type during a presentation and also use the distance camera at the same time to view the whiteboard? So in other words, is there a split screen and how easy is it to use? And her second question is, which will be an interesting one for you, Sharon, how does it compare with the Mercury 12 system that you mentioned earlier?
I was trying not to say Mercury 12 because I love the Mercury 12. But yeah. Okay, let's take the first question, which was
so if you're viewing the whiteboard
typing,
and you're typing and
So we could, let's come out of settings. We could be looking at our whiteboard here. Let's put it back on color. Need to move that around a bit. Okay, so we could be looking at our whiteboard, and now, yeah, this is a good question because it doesn't have a split screen because it only uses one camera. But what you can do, you'll notice that when this Onyx Pro software starts up, it takes up the whole screen. But if you swipe down from the top, you have the option to change it into a window, or if you're like me and you like your shortcuts and because you want to type while you're watching a presentation, we'll attach our keyboard again and we can type Windows Shift and Enter, Windows Shift Enter. And that turns our software window into a software package into a window, which means we could then open our word processor and we can type away. And then we can do Alt-Tab to the whiteboard and Alt-Tab back again. Now, I think you can do that without turning it into a window, but it actually works smoother if you do. So if you make the Onyx Pro software into a window, you still have all your options and your toolbar and everything. You can still pinch to zoom in and out, but you can switch quickly to your Word document. Sorry, that's very bright because it's a white screen. Maybe if I could change it to a, yeah, another keyboard shortcut. We'll just change it to a high contrast. There we go. Oh, that's better. So yeah, so that's my high contrast mode in Windows, and I switch back and I still have my same setup in the Onyx Pro software there.
Sharon, just a quick question on the chat from our friend Daniel Dunn from NCBI. What was the key stroke that you mentioned to put the window into
Do you
full
know,
screen?
I love my keystrokes, but it's one that I always forget. It's Windows Shift and Enter. What it does is when you, it's used a lot in gaming because a lot of gaming programs fill the screen and you might not want them to. So Windows Shift and Enter turns a full screen app into a window that you can then manipulate.
So
that's
actually, a general shortcut. It's not a. It's
a general shortcut.
Okay.
Oh yeah, all my shortcuts are general shit.
Brilliant, Sharon.
And having said that, here's a few more for you. Start me off now, Daniel. Now we'll be here all afternoon.
Done, Daniel. See what you've done. My God, we want to get out of here by 10 o'clock tonight if we can. So
if you have something in a window, we were talking about split screen earlier. If you hold down the windows and press the arrow left and right, you can lock it in to one side of the screen. And then if you do Windows, oh, hang on, let me just, if I get onto my document and do the opposite, I'll do Windows left. And now I have my Word next to my whiteboard and I could move around the whiteboard and I could zoom out and get, now I mean that filing cabinet is quite close, so it's not a great example, but you'd be able to see a lot more if it was on the whiteboard a bit further away.
Okay. Sharon, I'm just going to remind people that you can raise your hand as well. We have a few comments in the chat, but if anybody does want to talk to us, and we have Joyce who has her hands raised. So if you don't mind, I'm going to let Joyce ask her question.
Sure.
So Joyce, I'm going to invite you to unmute yourself. You should have an alert to unmute. I think we can hear you, Joyce.
Yeah, good afternoon. Actually, it's morning for me here in the States.
Great very accent. Welcome.
Great accent.
I have 2 questions. First of all, can you directly import the picture into Word as opposed to saving it first and then bringing it into Word to be read?
That's a very good question, and that actually quite nicely brings me on to the next bit that I wanted to talk about.
Okay, so let me ask
there.
the second question.
Oh, okay,
and then
okay.
you can go into that.
Okay.
Is will Narrator and or the JAWS part of Fusion work to read the menu options?
Not that I know of. I don't think so, because it's a low vision product. So it is quite visual. It's very clear, but it is a visual product. That would be a good one for Vispero.
Yeah, I think definitely, and I think in terms of Vispero, it's one there, as I say, where they're just releasing it this week, I think, in the US, or maybe next week. So we'll definitely feed that back and ask them, because if there was somebody using with low vision with Fusion, that might be a useful option.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Joyce.
So I'll show you about the the other question now. So
Okay.
thanks, Joyce. Okay, so do you remember me pressing the little floppy disk symbol everywhere I could? Well, if I come out of Read Desk, and I just close my Word there as well. And now if I go into my files, and this is your usual Windows files, your like libraries. Sorry, you won't be able to see that too well. It's a little bit glary. And if I go into pictures, and that's the touch screen, so I may as well tap it. In the pictures folder, there is a folder called Read Desk. So I go into Read Desk, and then there'll be folders for the dates, which I can actually make bigger because it's a touch screen, so I can pinch to zoom to my heart's content. So we have a folder with our date, the June the 2nd. I can go in there, and here is all the pictures that I took today. So I can open one of them. Well, what I could do, I could open one in, I could kind of copy it and paste it into Word if I wanted to, and then I can actually kind of add it to a project, or I can draw on it. But if I do, in fact, talking about drawing, if I, actually not that one, if I do the A4 page that I took, if I edit with Paint 3D, because that's on every Windows machine, now I can, oh gosh, that's much quicker than the other surface. Now I can actually draw, I can pick a color, and if I get a PC stylus, which does actually come in our education pack, I can just move it around. I can have a look at my list. I can underline things. I can write on it, and I can then save that onto my PC, email it to my teacher. So if you imagine if this was a worksheet that you give to the whole class as a teacher, you could take a picture of it very quickly, save it, open it in something like 3D Paint, and draw all over it. So, and you could zoom into different parts of the worksheet as well, so that you could use the same size text worksheet as everybody else in the class and just magnify it and draw on the screen. Now, if I come out of that, the other thing that we have is we also, I kept pressing the floppy disk when I got the software to read it back to me, which actually saves the text. And this is where the kind of word question from Joyce comes in, I think. If I go into the documents folder this time in the Windows libraries, and I go into a folder called Read Desk Text, and now there's a whole list of text files. So if I find one here, like the last one I did, now I have in Notepad, because it's just a text file, so it opens in Notepad, but now I have the text off of my A4 sheet in Notepad, so I could stay in Notepad and I could actually type in my answers. If it was a list of questions that I took a picture of, I can fill in the information, I could save that, or I could copy and paste it into Word and use the text that way. As a student, be careful of copying text into assignments. I just have to say that. But yeah, brilliant for worksheets and for being able to type your information in rather than having to write it. I just thought of something else I want to show you. I won't save that. It will come out of there. Okay. One more thing I just want to show you as well. I hope that answered your question, Joyce. Maybe Joyce is still there, Stuart. I don't know if you wanted to Or if Joyce wanted to come back to me
No,
there.
I think we'll keep going because there's another
Yep.
hand raised
Oh,
as well.
sorry.
So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll keep
Just
it moving.
one more thing I wanted to show you with the Onyx Pro. If I move it back down again, is you could write with it as well. So I can have my notepad magnified and I could write on my notepad. Do I have my light on? There we go. Make sure my light's on. Sorry, I came across you there. So I can write on my notepad and use the camera. And then I've kind of vaguely written normal size on my notepad, so I could zoom in a page, or even again, a worksheet. You could have the worksheet live on your camera, you could read it. I don't really want to write on this printout because I might need it again, but I could find my pen and I can write on here as well. Okay, I think that's enough of me talking. Like, I think that was everything I wanted to show people. I guess the one question, or did you want to go to the other raised hand, or is it?
Right, my raised hand has just disappeared. Simon had his hands raised, but he's gone.
Oh, I'm sorry,
so,
Simon.
Yeah. I don't know. We do have a raised hand, but sorry, Sharon, work away. Ryan, I'll bring you in a sec.
I was just going to answer the question about the Mercury 12 and the Onyx Pro.
Yep.
So if you know the Mercury 12 really well, it's very similar. It's very, very similar software. This is kind of a more up-to-date software. The Mercury 12 has a slightly different stand as well that you kind of maneuver around, whereas this one is kind of stays in place. The Mercury 12 uses 2 different cameras, so you do have a split screen, but yeah, so you just have half the screen is the near camera and half the screen is the distance camera. So it has that split screen, but you kind of have more options with actually making it into a window and split screening it with Word and things like that. So or even just alt tabbing, just switching between the 2 applications as well. Yeah, I have put the 2 next to each other and done exactly the same thing just to compare. And the Onyx Pro is faster and easier to use, I find, than the Mercury 12. Although the Mercury 12, a lot of people really like the stand. So it's a different stand, and some people like the split screen. So yeah. Oh, and writing would be easier with the Onyx Pro, I think, because it's just right in front of you. I guess the Onyx Pro, it's like a laptop setup. So it's kind of a setup that you would get used to with using a laptop, but then you have the camera as well. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Brilliant, Sharon. Fantastic. So just a quick reminder, if anyone wants to come in and ask a question, you can raise your hand at this time. We're going to go to Raina, who's had her hand raised for a little while. So Raina, you should be able to unmute yourself now if you'd like to ask your question.
Hello, Raina.
Hello, how are you?
Oh,
Yeah,
there she is.
I'm here.
Got you.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi there. I came in a bit late, Sharon. I'm sorry I
Okay.
missed the beginning.
No
but,
worries.
I have to say I do have a Surface Pro, but I can't even work the Surface Pro. I found it very unuser friendly for some reason.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
a Windows person, but this is my issue, and it doesn't sound to me like Onyx Pro solves this. I have some residual sight. I'm of an age. I'm not well, occasionally I go back and be a student, but that I like to take notes with handwriting. So I like writing notes. However, I don't have enough sight to. So I have enough sight to sort of read my large. Usually the marker pen tip, and they're very thick and big. But I don't have enough sight to read the screen. So I rely on, screen readers such as VoiceOver or JAWS or whatever to read the screen. But what I find is, so I'm in a category where I have a little bit of sight, want to draw and write, but need a screen reader to read the actual application instructions. So I find I've tried so many, and I find that I can't use them because, like when you say choose a color, well, I have to actually do that by sound, or choose a pen. I have to do that by sound because I cannot see well enough, with all the, because they're often very micro, small, and even if you zoom so I'm just wondering if is this sounds like to me like it's an app for somebody for quite a high level of visual acuity, even though they might have a visual impairment. Is that correct?
It is for low vision. But I'm just thinking about what you said, and actually what Joyce mentioned earlier about would it read out the read out the controls, that kind of thing. And actually there are keyboard shortcuts. There'll be keyboard shortcuts for the controls, so there'll be a keyboard shortcut to change the color, so you wouldn't even need to use the toolbar then. That's potentially...
Yes, and the issue for us there, which is why we now want to read, we want the app to be labeled, the selection buttons to be labeled, because can you imagine trying to learn the keyboard strokes for umpteen apps which come and go? So and the investment of learning, and then suddenly you might find they break because in the next iteration of the app they've changed or
who would do that? Jeepers.
Well, so exactly. So I've found that at this stage I'm sort of I've got sort of keystroke learning exhaustion and confusion, actually, because of the amount of times you have to relearn, and actually you would then I just won't use it if I have to, especially, well, if it's it depends on the, if it becomes an absolutely key app, you're sure it's not going to go away, etc. But why isn't it possible? And it seems to me the same on so many apps, that developers simply don't label. It's not a difficult thing to do, to label the actual
toolbar kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and you could maybe press Alt or something, and
whatever, or if you are
a new product, so I'm playing here now. No. Okay. Sorry.
So, that's all. My comment was that there are many of us in this situation where we have some sight, but we need to read. We need to use, or we need to access orally the actual controls.
Yeah, thanks for that, Raina. And actually, while you were talking there, I just thought, I wonder if I can change the colors with C, because I haven't got a list of keyboard shortcuts for this anymore. So I press C and I can go through my color schemes just with the letter C, which is kind of intuitive. So that's not too bad. And I think I can probably take a picture with a space bar or something. This is where...
Okay, brilliant. Well, look, it's a great comment, and thank you, Raina, for your comments.
Thank you.
Great to hear from you. Okay, I'm going to go to Noma, who has her hand raised. So one sec. Noma, you should be able to unmute yourself and give us your question.
Hello.
Hi, Noma.
Yeah, I was just looking at this. I'm comparing the Mercury 12 and the Onyx. Right. Would the Onyx be more for students in the upper section of the school, like say secondary school and maybe late
university, third level kind of thing? Potentially, yeah. It's very sleek looking. I think second level and third level students would prefer it because it's neater.
Yeah.
It would, but like, I've spoken to a few people about this, and really it depends on the student as well, as to what they find is the easiest to use, you know.
Yeah, and I was looking at the Mercury 12, right? And the problems we're facing with it. There's so many small little things. So
Yeah.
I was kind of looking for something that could replace the Mercury 12 for the younger children.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much doing the same thing as the Mercury 12. It's just a slightly different setup. It is simpler though. I do think it's a bit simpler because there's not as many bits to it. You know, the keyboard's almost built in. There's just the one camera. So it might actually be simpler to use for a younger student. So yeah, good question, Noma.
Yeah, because I'm looking at my kids and wondering who would benefit from this. Because
Okay.
the Mercury 12 has its own problems at the moment, but anyway.
Yeah, it's, I mean, the Mercury 12 is they're very similar. It's just the stand really is the big difference. But I do think like the toolbar, I think, is simpler on the Onyx Pro. It's just, you know, you don't have to move the stand to take a picture of the whole page. I just think it's actually easier to use. Yeah.
Yeah, I might try and get one for the, when are they coming in so that we can order? Okay.
We can, as of this afternoon, I think, isn't it, Stuart?
As of tomorrow, I think.
As
Really.
tomorrow,
But,
even. Sorry,
definitely be
jumping the gun there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be able to then produce quotes as of tomorrow.
All right, thank
to
you
apply.
very
Yeah.
much. Because
thanks, Noma.
Yeah, I've been holding off and applying for stuff, hoping and against hope that this would come in, and then I would look at this and see, is it much more user friendly or what it is? But I feel it's much more user friendly because you don't tilt the stand up and down. And
yeah, I like the fact that you can, because I find a lot of the students that I work with, the fact that you can zoom in and out and then move around, which you can't actually do with Mercury 12. That's very intuitive. Yeah. And the scroll bars and everything. Yeah.
Thanks, Noma.
Thanks, Noma. Lovely to hear your voice.
Take care. Okay, I'm just going to go back to the chat because we got a few other messages. A few people, Sharon, saying they really enjoyed it and thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you.
That's lovely. Pauline Jarvis had to head off, but she just wanted to say thank you very much.
Great.
Anna says, if you need to use magnification software such as Zoom Text, is that an additional cost? And the answer is yes, Anna. I mean, I think one of the things you might see over time is, because this is a Vispero product, there will be some kind of bundle.
We might be pushing for that.
But yeah, I mean, I think we'll certainly request it, but as of this time,
request it. Yeah.
There is no cost. Yeah. And Svetlana says, great presentation. Alex is asking, does the device have a find feature? I suppose, yeah, can you maybe put in a string of text? I guess if you were using
No, I think you'd have to you'd have to save the text and then open it and find it in the Notepad or Word or something. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not actually in. That's a good idea though.
Svetlana just has a note. Did I miss magnification for reading modes?
Oh, yes.
How for reading and distance modes, how big can you make it?
I haven't got the actual specs of it yet, but I think it's kind of similar probably to the Mercury 12. So it's probably 1.5 times to 20 times.
Yeah.
But I haven't got that confirmed from Vispero yet, the actual ranges. So you didn't miss anything, Svetlana.
Okay, you didn't miss anything, Svetlana. So okay, that's everything in chat. I'm just going to give another shout out if anybody wants to raise your hand. This is a really good time to do it.
But yeah, we're definitely going to go back to Vispero about maybe having that toolbar read out if possible. Because if anybody could do it, Vispero could do it. You know?
Yeah, and they are open to receiving feedback on this at the moment. So we'll make sure that this stuff gets sent back.
Yeah, Daniel's just asking there. Sorry, just popped up about it. This is being recorded. So yeah. Oh, and
it'll
I
be
just
on the Sight and Sound YouTube tomorrow.
thank you. Mary's just asking different reading modes, and thanks. You almost read my mind. I knew there was something else. There is different reading modes. So there is wrapped and original, which is very similar to the Mercury 12. So we could open one of our pictures. I'll just quickly do that. How are we doing for time, Stuart?
Yeah, we're fine.
Good.
Yeah, we're okay. Yeah.
I'll just go in and open one of my pictures here. Where's the one that we were working on, or even that one? So if I then read the picture, it will do the different mode. So you can't see that there. Oh, it's gone dim while it's reading. Yeah. So the original mode, reading mode, will actually read a picture of the page. So then you could zoom in on the page and say, right, I want you to read this. Okay, so you can do that. So that's very similar to the Mercury 12. So you can switch to that mode and you can save the text, but it doesn't let you, the wrapped mode that I was demoing before lets you change all the colors instantly there, and the highlight as well, and lets you, well, you can scroll around on this one, but you just can scroll the text very easily just in one column on the wrapped mode. So yeah, so they're very similar to the Mercury 12 modes, yeah, because it's almost identical piece of software, but this is the newer version. Okay,
brilliant.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, great question. Great question. And thank you to everyone for all your participation today. It's been a really great session. Of course, major thanks to Sharon, and Peter is just saying really good presentation. Welcome. Peter is a regular attendee.
Thank you, Peter.
Great to see Peter again. Sharon, well done. Really great presentation. I think we're very excited we're always excited anytime that there is something new coming to the market, but I think particularly excited about this device.
Definitely. We've been waiting a while for this. They've been working on it for a long time to get the design right. And also I would say I'll probably be down with Noma in the Cork soon, because it's not until you put it in front of somebody that really they can tell you whether it's going to work for them or not. Yeah.
Okay, you're going to be on the road a lot, Sharon, next year, that's for sure. Okay, thank you everybody for attending Webinar Wednesday. Remember, we're next week doing our Clubhouse event at 12:30. Lovely to see the messages in chat saying thank you, Sharon. Great to hear about the type of equipment for those who struggle with vision. And we're back next week with Clubhouse, and in 2 weeks' time we're here with Vispero to talk all about new features in JAWS. So look forward to seeing everyone then. In the meantime, take care and stay well, and thank you for attending Webinar Wednesday.
Thank you.